I am, okay, how about this? Hello, my name is Antonio Munoz or Jaime Munoz, and I am the founder of Council I AM, also within the podcast, within the journey of the soul of Council I Am. And also, this will be a video recording for YouTube, and also this will be put into the podcast. What I'm really trying to do is to allow each individual to begin seeing the beautiful archetypes. And these are the three strongest archetypes. You can begin seeing it from a father, a son, and the spirit, or let's say the soul. There will be a time where I introduce the fourth one, and then also the fifth one. But we're going to begin talking about the three main archetypes that kind of run your whole entire structure of your conscience. Now, each person is in a state of relation where everything feels like, this is what reality is, and this is what I consider life to be. When we begin to see without any form of what's the perfect word I want to use, bias. And sometimes we go into, when we begin seeing stuff that's in our head and we begin seeing it externally, we begin to not identify with it. When we begin to see everything that you see is in a state of relation. Now, of course, we can say everyone, and this is not my teaching, but this is the teaching of Albert Einstein that really understood the law of relativity. The law of relativity is a law very hidden. It's very, very hard to actually find it until you have to go into a very disordered state of conscience where you separate yourself from everything. And you see everything kind of in a fifth. This is where most people get the 5D point of view, 6 point of view, 12D point of view. When um, I guarantee you, try to live in that, and you won't even, if you get to 5, 6, it's very strengthful. It strengthens your energy. It really causes you to um, have a huge disorder in life. But you need to go into these states in order for you to really dive in, or you have individuals who come and teach it for you. Now, this is the most beautiful thing about working as a group, working together, and also hopefully you can learn something from this presentation, and hopefully you can add up the dots of what you've captured in your life, what you believe to see, whatever you saw within your state of relation, and kind of just allow this information to dive more for every single person. Everyone is going to a direction that not each individual will go to, because if you look at the life that's infinite, the possibility of us meeting again is one of infinite. So this is really where you have to look at it. It's like a high school graduation, where you begin to see is like, man, it's like, appreciate the people that you have, appreciate the team that you are, but overall, each and one of you are going to somewhere completely different, because no one can be unique. No one can be equal, because everyone is unique. Maybe in the beginning, everyone starts the same, and you begin to see how certain people are born at a certain time. And my point of view is when you begin to see it um, from the Godheads, which really it's headless. You have to look at it from three different types of nature. There's a demonic, which is negative, what I call it to be the dreamer state, the natural, the Nero, right? And the divine, where it's kind of nature. A neutral point of view is a persona of self where, you live on a day-to-day basis. You can live with what you have around you. But you begin to see the trinity of these three beautiful archetypes. The archetypes of the ego, which is the sun, um, the archetypes of the self, which is um, you begin to see it from the man, and then the higher self to being the father. Now the spirit is another one, but that's up here, as you can tell, where you have the triple S. Your yourself, your soul, and your spirit, which is the triple S. Um, but this is in a whole different context where not many people can enter here, because the ability to, when you go into a dangerous trail, the likely of coming back is very slim to none. But with these three, you begin to see the beautiful thing about it. Now, I'm going to try to explain it the best I can for each individual to see it where they are right now. Um, When we're looking at the ego, when we're looking at the self, and we're looking at the soul, I would always tell you, and I would question this: do you believe you can get rid of the ego? Do you believe you can get rid of the self? And also, do you believe you can get rid of the soul? Um, you don't have to answer it to me and prove it to me, but I would highly suggest you go into these archetypes and kind of see them in a different point of view. If you choose to be what you consider yourself, like an ascended master or spiritual leader or any of this, understand these are just labels of your egotistic mind that likes to feel some type of ascending or superior when most, and this is how I say it, most superior beings actually go down rather than up. And if you're going up, that means you want to live in a state of complete nature, which is fine. But when you begin to understand, certain people have come down, and certain people have stayed here, and some people are trying to go up in an egotistic way. Um, this is something you can know you cannot take away from, because this is what allows prosperity. This is where allows growth, peace. Um, if anyone is looking into living a life where there's nothing but peacefulness, understand that you're asking for a chaotic world where you can see the witnessing of peace. Um, and again, I want to, and this is where I get to elaborate a little bit more, for each individual to begin seeing peace is not very peaceful. And now this is really, really beautiful, because in order for you to witness peace, you must have a destructive external environment if you decide to see where peace was at. Or you can learn to understand this peace, this divine peace, and begin seeing it with a whole different lenses. So let's go back into these three states. You got the ego, which is the conscience, right? The persona, which is the identification of what the self is wanting to do. That means being a husband, being a father, being a worker, being a servant, etc. Now, the higher self, the soul, is the internal being who is judging the conscience and the self, that simply observes. This is where you get the idea of the observer. But it's the most beautiful thing when you look at the Bible. You begin to see how the soul is is a descendant archetype, meaning that what you're looking at right now is only the awareness of what the soul is. You begin to see the soul eventually. The soul will come to be the higher self will be the self, and the self will be the ego, and then the ego itself, or whatever it believes, once you've seen the reality of it, they simply vanish, or you begin to see the archetype of you can't say the word, of destruction, of negative, right? It goes back, and all that energy gets put back up here. And it's a recyclement. Now, when you begin to understand this, you can see how, whether you think of a 5D or a 12D or 15D, uh, those are all distractions. So begin to look at yourself as a completely being of an inner and outer realm. The only reason I'm able to speak these formations is because I've been told to do so. Um, and I got no choice but to really speak on this matter, because to get into this state of conscience, um, I'm very grateful and I have an honor to have the opportunity to really explain this in a much more detailed way. Now, I won't speak to you much about chakras or the energy fields. I leave those to those alchemists. I will let you know a little bit about alchemy itself. I'm the call a little bit of alchemy itself, so you can have the ability to understand your physical senses, your metaphysical abilities, your emotional energy, or the vessels, right? This is where the alchemist ends up creating the vessels, right? The vessels eventually become personas, and depending on what it is, again, the ego is the conscience. It is, until you realize that conscious, the one that's been telling you, or the voice that you've been hearing, is only the echoes of you constantly putting into these vessels. Where the conscience or the ego is designed perfectly. There is no flaw within the ego conscience. You need the ego conscience. Without ego conscience, the Father can't exist. Now think about this. If you don't have a sense of pride, then the idea of being a father and being a protector go away. That doesn't come from the higher self. The soul, the spirit doesn't know what's good and bad. The ego is designed to contribute to this as well. If you studied Bob Proctor and his teachings and his continuous progression between the conscious and the unconscious, another perfect person is Dr. Murphy, who explained it really good. And if you go into that field, you begin to see it. So you begin to see these phenomenal teachers that have been here and they have been missed, regardless if they've reached millions of people. Yet their names are these are great mages. These are great ascended masters. When you get out of the textbooks of these individuals, I guarantee you, anything that you're reading 2,000 or 4,000 years ago does not come close to the idea of these individuals, because what they thought is the manifestation is what we're seeing externally. Computers, everything that you see is a manifestation of what you believed, and you are in the relation towards this. Back in the day, you begin to see how there's certain aspects that didn't have it. Now you can go up more into the crystallized and more of a mythology point of view of energy, but you must see why certain things get destroyed. Things don't get eradicated for no reason. Whatever is perfect will exist, and whatever is not perfect will cease to exist. Um, so hopefully this allows you to have, and again, I'm going to speak a little bit more about this on a day-to-day progress. Now, tell me what you think. I won't really dive more into it because there's a lot of subjects to talk about this. Again, everyone has their own conception of it, but if you do decide to study and understand your state of consciousness itself, in the study of the consciousness field, you begin to see that you are an elementary student pretending to be a principal or pretending to be a high school student or even a scholar. Now, these are very beautiful things because if the world is not changing, you begin to see that the true meaning of how you evolve as a being. Um, I really can't really delay or say so much more about this because um, life is very infinite and also life is very empty. So when you begin to see the archetypes, I will speak more in the matter and little by little for you guys to have these. Hopefully I can start building courses. I realize what I should be doing. I should be teaching this for for the children. And again, the goal is for the children of tomorrow, for them to see life, for them to be able to experience a reality that I won't experience in this life. And the more this information gets passed down and more of this faith, more of this imagination merges with reality, the more you're able to see how the golden age is really upon us. The age of dawn is here. And for us to speak in these matters, you must see that you're not getting crucified, because in the age of light, we were able to speak this. And then once we go to the age of chaos, we begin to lose more of a spiritual and we end up more physical, which uh, you begin to see these cycles are so phenomenal. Um, and again, don't consider yourself weak. Don't consider yourself worthless. Anyone who is in a poverty state of mind, for you to be in this time, in this moment, you must have so much appreciation because, um, again, it's very important to understand these because uh, anyone who is living in a complete downfall, you are a lot stronger than you think. When you're looking at animals, when you want to see love and how love can make, if you have too much love, and that's another skill I will begin to uh, explain to you guys, is within the state of humanity and the state of spirituality is the same pole, just looking at each other from different angles. So again, I'm going to put this through faith. In my Instagram page. This will go into the podcast. also on YouTube. Again, my name is Jaime Munoz. I am with Council I Am. I am a student of the universe, and you and I are alike. We are no different, no below, no above, not as within, not without as without. We are simply a figure of our own imagination, and each one of us are unique. So don't hold yourself less, don't hold yourself higher. Begin seeing yourself as a student rather than a master. Um, don't look at yourself as a teacher, but more as you begin to see that the age of teachers are ascending now, rather than